Greetings from my creepy and messy basement. Uh, Greetings to my 21 subscribers who might watch this video and whoever's not subscribed that might watch this video. I want to share my thoughts on the Jimmy Dore Cornel West interview. I put it in air quotes because it felt more like a debate. In fact, it was a debate. If you've seen the debate or the interview, let's call it interview just for the sake of it, but it, like I said, it was more like a debate. If you watched it, you know what I'm talking about. Very confrontational between Jimmy and Cornel West, and it got confrontational for all the wrong reasons, really. Jimmy Dore I think he is the one to blame. I don't think it was a very effective interview. I didn't really get to learn much more about uh, Cornel West's campaign. He's running for president, Green Party for POTUS. It wasn't that effective. I didn't get to hear his policy proposals, which I have a rough idea of what the man stands for and what he supports, but I didn't get to hear like an unpacking of his policy proposals. Like, I didn't get to see anything regarding on any issue really, except you can say maybe a little bit on unmasking, if you want to give it a title, or just putting more transparency on what happened during COVID. He kind of gave a little bit of a flushed out answer in that regard, which that part pleased Jimmy, but even on that, they were debating whether COVID was if COVID should be the highest priority or higher priority for Cornel West or not. According to Jimmy, it should be, because according to Jimmy, it's like the greatest tragedy or the biggest problem in the last 25, 30 years or some shit. And Cornel West, he gave him an answer like, yeah, I think it'd be good if I get like a truth commission or a investigative board or whatever you call it. I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember his exact words, but yeah, more or less that was it. Investigation board, and really determine what happened. What did we do wrong? What voices were being silenced during the debate, and that part Jimmy liked, but then he didn't like that it's not the highest priority for Cornel West. Cornel West said it was Israel, Palestine, and people were struggling economically, and other issues that he name dropped that were a higher, importance to Cornel than what happened during COVID. That was a mildest disagreement, and it was pretty intense just watching that part. But they started with the debate over Trump versus Joe Biden. And I've seen Cornel West on other channels, YouTube channels, whatever networks, The Breakfast Club, Democracy Now, Brianna Joy Gray, and I'm sure there's others. Cornel West does not obsess or spend that much time contemplating who's the bigger fascist, Trump or Biden, or debating it. To him, it's a no-brainer, and to me, it's a no-brainer. Trump is the bigger fascist. Jimmy takes issue with that uh, point of view, opinion, whatever, and so they spent a good amount of time debating that subject, and I think it was like the bulk of the interview, and it's Jimmy's fault that they spent so much time on that when we could have spent time on hearing Cornel West's more fleshed out, more unpacked plan for the Ukraine war, the war in Ukraine, or immigration. You name your issue, man. There's so many issues out there. Climate change, foreign policy overall, or how he feels about other candidates' platforms or positions. And that's all on Jimmy because Jimmy, first of all, he framed the question like he laid the question out as a criticism of uh of Cornel West, pretty much strawmanning him, saying that he spends too much time and that on that subject, which is not true, and saying that it would be and from that false premise, saying that because you spend so much time, not true, on this issue, who's more a bigger fascist, it's bad for your campaign. It's a losing message, I guess. Again, not true. That's not what Cornel West does. The reason they spend so much time on this shit this time, because Jimmy, he would not take no for an answer from Cornel West. He pretty much wanted Cornel West to agree with him that Biden is actually the bigger fascist. So I don't know what that says about Jimmy. He yeah, it I think he has Trump. I mean, you know how they say too many Democrats have Trump derangement syndrome? Well, Trump supporters definitely have Democrat derangement syndrome, or dem derangement syndrome. And many leftists, man, that, these people that are invested, very heavily vested in a third party strategy, to defeat the neoliberals and the neo-fascists from both the right and the left. Yeah, which is true. It's a real problem. The neo-fascists on the right, with Trump at the head of it, and not far behind DeSantis and Republicans overall. Not the rank and file. I cut them more slack. I mean, I think they have an issue believing all these fascist people, but I'm talking about fascist-minded people. But I'm talking about the high-profile politicians and freaking Republicans, conservatives in media overall. Real problem. Neoliberals that are weakening our defenses against the neo-fascist problem. They're also a real problem. So, fuck, what was I talking about now? Yeah, that's a real problem. But Jimmy once he's being ridiculous, arguing that Biden is the bigger fascist. And Cornel West, to his credit, he brought his spine with him to this interview, and he told him, "No, Jimmy, you're wrong. Uh, Biden is not the bigger fascist. Biden is enabling fascism. You can say that. You can say there's elements of fascism and layers, whatever. You can point to several problems with Biden that enable fascism or that you can consider fascistic, but no, dude, Trump is the bigger fascist, and anyone paying attention that really cares about preserving whatever we have left of democracy in this republic, that is really becoming an oligarchy. You would agree that, yeah, Trump tried to steal the fucking election, bro. And he incited a riot at the Capitol and endangered, elected officials, our elected leaders in Congress. People died that day, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. You got to look at the evidence in Georgia that he tried to steal the election, and outside of Georgia, all his actions trying to convince Mike Pence to do something that he's not allowed to do anyway. But um, I think that's the biggest indicator that Trump is a bigger fascist. Trump and Biden have a lot of things in common, that's for sure. On foreign policy, on the Iran deal, they're both are bad on the relations with Iran. Um, I think Trump was actually better than Biden on North Korea, just slightly better in terms of keeping us safe from a potential missile attack from North Korea. But he he did it by identifying with another authoritarian, so that's not good. Um, they're equally bad on several things, man. Uh, Freaking on climate change, Trump and Biden, they're both really bad. Just protecting the environment overall, yeah, I think they're both bad on that. Uh, but at least you can say the Democrats are at least pretend to care about democracy. They're not doing a very good job right now by sabotaging uh, Marianne Williamson and RFK, the two primary opponents of Joe Biden. Like, yeah, there is showing a little bit of their hypocrisy in that regard. But still, that's not as bad as inciting a riot and trying to steal the election by appointing fake electors, and trying to convince Raffensperger, or whatever this dude's name in Georgia, to find Trump 11,000 votes and 700 or 11,700 or something like that votes to you know flip Georgia to his column. And yeah, man, that to me there's strong evidence that he's a criminal in that regard. There's strong evidence that he's a fascist criminal in the classified documents case. There's serious evidence that he's corrupt, but to be fair, there's good evidence that Biden is also corrupt. But no, bro, Trump is a bigger fascist, and like I said, Jimmy would not let it go. He would not stop. He was like, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. Like, oh, suddenly Cornel West has no conviction, so he's gonna flip right now and agree with me instead. And they spent a lot of time on this issue, and staying with the Trump debate and saying, and not just saying that Biden is a bigger fascist, that Democrats overall are the bigger problem of fascism than Trump or Republicans, I guess, because he brought up the RICO charges brought against Trump and tried to compare it to the RICO charges brought up against the 61 protesters. What do you call these people? Yeah, protesters, or what do they call them? Activists, I guess, against Cop City in Atlanta, Georgia. He's trying to equate Trump to those people because there's RICO charges on both sides, but I, like Cornel West, agree that the 61 people being charged for RICO charges are being really marginalized. Their First Amendment rights are under attack. So they are victims of an authoritarian DA or prosecutor or whatever this guy's official title is, some Republican white guy going after this group of people, and Trump and the black Democrat DA lady or prosecutor, whatever, going after Trump on the Trump trying to overturn the election of 2020. Jimmy's argument that they are victims and Trump is a victim. No, these guys are victims. Trump is not a fucking victim of the RICO charges brought up against him. But Jimmy tried his hardest to get the false equivalent out there and trying to freaking convince Cornel West, who didn't budge, like, no, dude, you're wrong. Like, they're not the same thing. RICO charges against both, yeah, but it's not fair that these people are being brought up on, indicted on RICO charges, and Trump is. It's not fair to them. It is. It might be fair against Trump. And yeah, man, if you just look at the evidence, yeah, like you can tell they're bogus. RICO charges against these people that are protesting Cop City. You don't know what I'm talking about? Go look it up real quick. Learn about both cases. Learn about the RICO charges against Trump. Learn about the RICO charges against the 61 activists against Cop City, and it's pretty damn obvious. This guy's being very super partisan, the Republican, trying to undermine the First Amendment rights of these people against the actual criminal here who did try to overturn the election, and there's evidence for it. But yeah, he told Cornel West, so you're okay with Democrats prosecuting the last Republican president or something like that. Like, you're okay with prosecuting the last president like it's something bad? Dude, if there's there, absolutely it's fine to do that. And I don't know. He's straight up sounding like a Trump simp, man. Like I have strong suspicions now that Jimmy Dore will end up being. He's gonna just drop the veneer, drop the facade, and the whole I'm for third parties and working class issues. He's gonna drop that facade and just endorse fucking Trump. The closer we get to the election, or just make more noise for Trump and make him sound like he's some kind of the lesser of two evils, which is ridiculous. But I think he'll go beyond that and proclaim him a freaking outsider hero or some shit, anti-elitist, when it's nothing close to it. That was my main takeaway, really, at the end of the interview, of how much simping Jimmy Dore is doing for Donald Trump. I think this is the most I've seen him do, and I always had the feeling, because I mean, you can only hide your bullshit, for so long. It's gonna start to stink, and with Jimmy Dore's been stinking for a long time, but yeah, this is the most mask off moment that I saw, and it's just, when you use a larger perspective, you can tell Jimmy Dore is like very anti-trans people, very anti. Yeah, they debated about that too. Like, he's telling Cornel West, stop talking about identity politics or virtue signaling, whatever. Stop talking about trans people, gay people, and black people issues, and focus only on working class stuff. Like economic issues, which is insane. It is just a dumb a dumb advice to give Cornel West of all people. Like, stop fucking talking about injustice done against black people, bro. Like, especially when there. If there's, yeah, it's true. There's cases, there's examples of where Democrats, the Democratic, establishment uses the race card in bad faith. But that's not always the case, bro. Especially when you're talking about Cornel West. Cornel West does not talk about race issues or LGBT issues unless there's a real problem there. He's not using it to evade talking about other questions, or like evade talking about the economy or foreign policy. You know, he's not using them as a veneer. When Cornel West talks about shit like this, he means it. Like, he sees a real problem and he's honest about it. How can you not talk about trans issues when all this anti-trans legislation is happening in all these Republican-run states? Talk about systemic racism. How can you not? How can you ignore it when you see it happening? When you see fucking black people being shot when they're unarmed, and the cops that do it, that kill them, not being held accountable way too many times. Not saying every time, but the times it does happen, why does it have to be a massive fucking protest where in some cases it ends up being a riot? Why does it have to be that much pressure to hold a fucking murderer cop accountable? And so Jimmy wants Cornel West, just, you've been talking about this all your life, but now that you're running for president, cut it out. He's fucking dumb, man. He's stupid. He's what do you call it? Missing the forest for the trees or some shit like that. However that saying goes. And he's just grifting, man. He knows his audience. He is audience captured. He knows his audience is a good chunk of them, maybe the majority of, they are fucking Trump supporters. And so he's pandering to Trump supporters. That's why he sells that bullshit message that Biden is a bigger fascist, and then there's not much to worry about regarding Trump. Bull fucking shit. He tried stealing the election. He tried undermining the will of voters. Okay? Because he's a sore loser. That's the bottom line, bro. 100 things wrong with Biden. Hypocrites, what's happening in the Democratic primaries right now, but he didn't incite a riot, bro. He didn't do that. He didn't tell his vice president to undermine the Constitution. So, yeah, you cannot convince me otherwise that Trump is a bigger threat to democracy and the closest thing to a fascist right now. And so, but Jimmy keeps saying otherwise, and I think it's because he likes that right wing cash flow. And yeah, I think he gets the views and the likes and the subscriptions are a very large part from MAGA supporters. And the moment he turns away from that, he's gonna lose money, and I think he's more worried about losing his money and his clout, because he's kind of a narcissist, man. It just shows in him. And so, big mask off moment. Overall, Cornel West held his own. He did not let Jimmy bully him into agreeing with Jimmy, because Jimmy is crazy. He held his ground, and he actually took a couple good jabs at Jimmy while talking about this subject on the Trump thing. He told him, he told him flat out, I think you are what I can't remember his exact words, but he said he pretty much I'm paraphrasing now. He said that I think you support Trump more than you want to admit. He used different language, but that was the message. I think that's your problem, Jamie. Like, because Jamie kept saying, "Oh, I don't like Trump. I don't like anything that he wants to do. But Biden is so much worse." And blah blah. And that's and Cornell's like, "Yeah, man. I think you like Trump more than you like to admit. You know." Another jab he took at him was on that issue. Like, nah, dude, I'm not gonna. I think you just want to dismiss LGBT people, especially the trans people, and you know, you're willing to throw them under the bus just to satisfy your viewers, and he told them straight up, man, and he held his own, and everybody took their corners. I watched reactions to his interview from Dissidence, who agree with Jimmy, of course. Heartland's Media, Kid Cabello, he agrees with Jimmy. Uh, the Vanguard, they reacted to the interview. They agree with Cornell, of course, because they're not audience captured. Uh, Dissidence, they do have a lot of MAGA viewers too. I interacted with that group of people, and it is what it is. Kid Cabello, I don't know if he realizes it with the Heartlands Media. I would assume so, but I don't know. Maybe he's more pure. But Kid Cabello plays the same bullshit. Like, he dismisses the January 6th incident, and his excuse for dismissing it is, oh, there was FBI infiltrators in the crowd. Maybe it's true, maybe not. I think it is true. How does that absolve Trump though? Did the FBI tell Trump to keep inciting riots? Did the FBI tell Trump once the riots started, when they started breaking shit in Congress and chanting Mike Pence, did the FBI told Trump, or the CIA, did they tell Trump, no, Mr. President, hold back, don't send them any help yet? That was all Trump, bro. So how does that absolve Trump? How does that mean Trump is not the bigger fascist? And yeah, man, I think like they say, Democrats, a lot of Democrats have Trump derangement syndrome. I think uh, people like Kit Cabello and Jimmy Dore and the Do Dissidents guys and RBN and all them, they have freaking damn derangement syndrome. They are blinded by hatred of the Democrats, and I see why they don't like Democrats, but I don't see why they think Democrats are worse than Republicans when it's not the case. They're not as freaking. They have authoritarian uh, instincts too. There's issues in that party, but the Republicans are clearly worse, and Democrats, they do throw the working class, you know, regular people, they do throw them a bone, and on worker rights, worker in terms of workers gaining more leverage right now. Biden's has been the best that has happened, and the bar is still low. But use whatever lens you want to use. Who's best? Who's better, Biden or Trump on worker issues, or who's worse, Trump or Biden? Whatever lens it is, Biden comes out on top. Uh, Midwestern Democrats, guaranteeing kids lunches, food while they're in school, free lunch. Like, don't worry about getting a bill or having to bring money so you have to buy food. You're gonna get fed no matter what while you're here in school. Couple Democrats in the Midwest are signing legislation like that. Uh, Tony Evers, I think, Democrat from Wisconsin, he pulled a fast one on Republicans and guaranteed funding for public schools for like the next 400 years or some shit. Meanwhile, Republicans are rolling back child labor laws and passing anti-trans bills where they prosecute the parents of trans kids, or ban medical care for all trans people, not just trans kids, but trans adults. Fucking threatening women with jail time if they seek an abortion, or even anyone who might give you a ride to another state or something. They are authoritarian, bro. And that is, it's just not even close. They are the most authoritarian and the most closest thing to fascism. Democrats are not that. So it is what it is. Jimmy was unhinged on this interview, and I don't know if they told Cornel West be prepared, like somebody told him, you know how Jimmy is, fucking better bring your A game. I don't know how it was, or maybe he just naturally has his A game, but he brought it. So credit to Cornel.